I don't know. That's where it says on my computer.
Okay, there you go. It says recording. So I think we got it going. Okay. Welcome everybody. For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see this is called the Noahide Scam Part 4. If you have not, if this is your first video, I recommend going and watching those 3 previous videos. At this point, we've made such the case, there's really not much more to say, but we're going to continue anyway. So if anyone wants to follow along for those watching later in the video, um, we're going to look at Laws of Kings, chapter 10. You can find this on Chabad.org or Safaria. If you have the physical copy, it's in Sefer Shoftim. Okay, so um, this is talking about a time in an era that we're not in right now, a time where we have kings, so that's called Laws of Kings, and wars that they wage, where we have a Sanhedrin. At that time, we'll be allowed to have Ger Toshavim. These are non-Jews who accept. Ger Toshav means resident alien, someone who lives in the land who agrees to keep these 7 laws, because that's the minimum standard, and the law is that you would be executed if you did not follow these 7 laws. Similar to if you're going to go visit another country. There are certain laws in other countries that you have to follow. Here in America, you're allowed to carry a gun. Other countries, it's a crime just to be in possession of it. So if you're going to go visit one of these countries, you have to know what the laws in those lands are. So this was posted on the gates. If you're a merchant, you're trading spices, furs, whatever reason you're in business, traveling through our land. If you're going to enter this land, you're going to follow these 7 laws because there is a zero tolerance policy. It's punishable by death. Do not enter this land if you're going to violate any of these 7 laws. However, if you become a citizen, means you will become a Jew, you will enter the people, you will become one of us. There is a completely separate legal system that you will be judged by. So there's 2 legal systems here, one for Jews, one for non-Jews, and that's what the Ger Toshav is. A resident alien, someone who comes in and agrees under threat of death to keep these 7 laws. All right, so chapter 1. A Noahide, this is, you see in the Hebrew, Ben Noach, Ben, descendant of Noah, a descendant of Noah, which is all humans. There's only 8 people on the planet. We're all descendants of Noah, right? So when you see this term Noahide, that's what it's referring to. You can't become a Noahide if you're already one. If you're already a descendant of one, you're not going to convert to become a descendant of Noah. So the actual term, which we'll see, is Ger Toshav, a resident alien who agrees to keep these 7 laws. So a Noahide who inadvertently, and this is the key word here, inadvertently, accidentally, violates one of his commandments, he's referring to the 7, is exempt from all punishment. So if you accidentally steal something, that's inadvertently, you would be exempt from the punishment because you didn't do it intentionally, with the exception of a person who kills inadvertently. If you accidentally kill somebody, you are not exempt from the punishment like you would be if you accidentally stole something. In such an instance, the redeemer of blood, this is the person who comes to avenge the killing. If you accidentally kill the Rebbitzin and I want to come avenge her death, I would be the redeemer of blood if I were to come assassinate the person that killed her. Even so, for a Jew, he would be given the chance to go to an open air, the city of refuge. Doesn't apply to one of these people. In such an instance, the redeemer of blood is not executed for slaying the killer. So if this was a Jew that killed my wife and I was a redeemer of blood and I killed him, he would be given the chance to go to a sanctuary city, and I would be executed if I were to kill him. In this case, I would not be executed for being the redeemer of blood. Would not be executed for slaying the killer, nor may the killer is the latter, seek asylum in a city of refuge. However, the court will not execute him. Um, Referring to the Redeemer of blood would not be the one executed, killing the guy. When does the above apply? When he inadvertently, again, accidentally violates a command without sinful intention. For example, a person who engages in relations with his colleague's wife under the impression that she is his own wife or unmarried. If, however, one knew that she was his colleague's wife but did not know that she was forbidden to him, or it occurred to him that this act was permitted, or one killed without knowing that it is forbidden to kill, he is considered close to having sinned intentionally, and he is executed. This is not considered an inadvertent violation, for he should have learned the obligations incumbent on him and did not. Now there's a lot here, and I think the physical copy has more commentary about this. But we learned in the last chapter that according to the letter of the law, you're not allowed to even kill. One of these Noahides is not allowed to kill, even for pekuach nefesh, even to save the life of a person. There was the example that if a pursuer is chasing what appears to be a victim with a knife, if one of these Noahides was to go and kill the pursuer, the one who's threatening the life of an innocent person, he would be executed for killing that pursuer when he could have just maimed him. Because this is one of your 7 laws that you agreed to. You're not allowed to kill anybody. Now, personally, I don't necessarily agree with it, because think about what this means. You're going to go stab the guy in the leg instead of cut his throat. Maybe it's a better option, but if you hit the femoral artery and the guy bleeds out, you stabbed him in the leg with the intent of maiming him, but now he's dead. You can bleed out in 60 seconds. So according to the letter of the law, he's executed for killing. That's what the law says in the last chapter. This is what it's saying here. Inadvertently killing somebody is the exception. We won't execute you if you accidentally steal something, but if you accidentally kill somebody, this is considered if one killed without knowing that it's forbidden to kill, you're considered close to having sinned. It's close enough. You don't even need the intention, and you're executed. This is not considered inadvertent, because you should have learned the obligations incumbent upon you and did not, even if it was accidental. This is, the second class citizens. It's a lower tier. They're not judged the same way that we would be. It's kind of hard to bounce back and forth between the physical copy that has the commentary that I want to read on it and what's on the screen. I'll try to do the best I can. I've highlighted some of the interesting commentaries for that reason. See number 8. As mentioned in the conclusion of chapter 8, all 7 mitzvot are concepts that can and should be intellectually comprehended. Every individual should appreciate these basic statutes, or at very least realize the rules within a society and seek guidance from others. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, but that's not something to aspire to. This is why Hashem gave us 613 commandments. 7's not enough. We need more to run a society and be an example to the rest of the world, to say we're a wise and discerning people because of all the commandments that we have. So it's really the dumbification of Judaism to say, let's ignore these and you just keep the 7. Everything written here makes the example that it's better the more commandments you keep. Okay, so for this sentence, he should have learned the obligations incumbent upon him and did not. The commentary there says, no, it's the next one I'm looking to read. Okay, next one. A Noahide who is forced by another person to violate one of his commandments is permitted to transgress. Even if he is forced to worship false gods, he may worship them. For Noahides are not commanded to sanctify God's names. A Noahide, minor, deaf, mute, or fool is never given punishment, for they are not bound by any commandments. Okay, this is common sense. If you see people that are, I don't know, they have Down syndrome or something, you're not going to judge them the same way somebody that has full capacity. So they're always Jew or non-Jew. These type of people are not held to the same standard. It's like, if you kill somebody today, the judge is going to say, are you mentally competent? If so, you're going to stand trial. If not, doesn't mean you get away with murder. You might go through a mental institution. We might have to take precautions, to make sure this type of thing doesn't happen again. But you're not going to be held to that standard, whether you're Jew or non-Jew, if you're in this deaf, mute, or mentally incapacitated, is what this is stating. Okay, but right here, if a Noahide is forced to violate one of these laws, he's permitted to transgress, even if he's forced to worship false gods. There's a lot of people out there that they hate Christians, they hate other religions, Buddhists. Um, they say that Hashem hates this so bad that he burns with fire how angry he is anytime he sees this. So I always make the point, when he took us out of Egypt, did he tell the Egyptians to stop doing what you're doing? Did he say, at a minimum, if you're not going to come out and accept Torah with these people, don't let me come back here and find these statues here? No, he didn't. He allowed them to. Agree, disagree, whatever, you're free to. This is the halakha. This is the law. It's saying even if people are forced to worship false gods, it's allowed for them, not for us, but for them. Because as Jews, we took an oath that we're not going to do it. Okay, but they're not taking this oath. So hating all these innocent people that might be misguided, they were raised by their parents who were brought up in a different religion, they believe it, even if it's not true, even if they're misguided. It's not our place to hate them. And we see even the Sanhedrin would not hate these people. They were tolerated in the land, serving what we consider to be false gods. So there's no justification when you see people behaving good. Just because they believe something different than we do, they're misguided by a salesman who believes whatever he believes. It's not an excuse to hate these people. And I've got some commentary highlighted here on this. In contrast, a Jew is obligated to sacrifice his life rather than transgress three sins. Anybody know what these three are? You probably know, but don't want to get it wrong because it's recorded. You're nervous about that. So I'll tell you, it's murder, um, illicit sexual relations, and idol worship. Okay, so what this means is, as a Jew, if somebody comes and puts a gun to your head, says, "I want you to worship this idol, I want you to kill that person, assassinate him, or I want you to do something with an animal that's not allowed sexually." As a Jew, you are supposed to give your life rather than commit one of these three acts. Now, some of us, we went to an online yeshiva for a smicha, and we were getting Ravu Manhig there, and in that course, that guy taught something that's not really obligatory. You see the ultra orthodox, they'll only put their right shoe on first, and then their left shoe goes on second. But they tie the left shoe, and then they tie the right. The example that he gave in that course was that if somebody puts a gun to your head and says, put your left shoe on first and then the right, the opposite of what we do, you should give your life. You should say, no, that's not how we do it as Jews. As Jews, we put our right shoe on, then the left shoe. You should give your life before putting your shoes on and wrong. I would not have used that example. As we see from the actual halakha, this is the law. A Jew is prohibited from doing these three things: murder, illicit sexual relations, and idol worship. You should be ready to give your life rather than to do these two things. Now, whether you actually do give your life, hey, we all fall short. We have a concept called teshuvah. I'll try to do better next time. Not judging you if you choose not to, be executed. But that's the halakha. Three things you're not allowed to do. You should give your life for as a Jew. As a non-Jew, that's not the case. You don't expect them to give their life so that they don't worship idols. So there's a level of tolerance in the halakha. Even if you want to be the most strict, the most machmir, you want to be frumer than Hazal. Okay, fine, you can personally. But this is what the law says. So it's kind of wrong if somebody's following the law to say, no, the law is not good enough. We want to add extra, optional, strict observances to it. And then call that obligatory and tell you that you need to follow it. If you are following the law, then you are good. Anyway, all right. I'll try and keep this short, so we'll try and go through it a little quicker. All right. Halakha 3. A Noahide who converted was circumcised and immersed in the mikvah. This makes a convert, full convert. Can't be undone. And afterwards, this convert decided to forsake God and revert to his previous status as a resident alien. You see, resident alien, this is the ger toshav that's referring to here. So it's interchangeable being used with Noahide. He is not granted permission to do so. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew. Once you convert, it's impossible to nullify the conversion. There's no going back. Can't say I changed my mind. It was better as a Noahide, as a ger toshav. Once you converted, there's no going back. There's one exception, which we're going to get to, and that's for children. But this is talking about an adult here. He's not permitted permission to do so. You can't go back to the other legal system. Rather, you must remain as Israelite in all matters or be executed. Okay. Once you're a Jew, that's it. And by the way, those of you who watch you've gone through, you have a Mot, Saribia, Yoredea, every law, Tractate Gerim, covered every law covering conversion. And all of them say, that's it. Once you're converted, you can't nullify it. There's no going back. So this is the exception, I think. If he was a minor and immersed by a court, meaning immersed in a mikvah, he's now legally Jewish. He may repudiate his conversion when he attains majority. It's a graphic way to explain he's basically considered an adult. And he assumes the status of a resident alien alone. However, if he does not object as soon as he attains the majority, he's considered an adult. He's no longer given the opportunity to object, and his status is that of a righteous convert. So if you're converted as a child without your consent, your parents convert you when you're 2 years old. You're a convert, but this is the only time you can nullify a conversion, is when he becomes an adult and he says, I don't want to be a Jew. I'd rather not be. Then because you were converted without your consent, this is the only time you're allowed to say, I want to revert back to my previous status as a non-Jew. And there's a debate. Does he have to reject it before he reaches the age of majority? Because if he reaches the age of majority and doesn't reject it, can he reject it later? No. So the debate is it at that moment, or does he have to reject it before he reaches that moment? Yes, Silla.
I think you answered my question when you said the age of majority. Is that the age of I guess bat and bar mitzvah? Is that what that is?
Today, yes. There were physical signs. When children go into puberty, hair starts to arrive on the body, so you can visibly see 2 hairs. That's considered the age of majority. It makes me uncomfortable. I mean, to think that today we would still do that, which fortunately we don't do that. Today it's considered 12 for a girl, 13 for a boy. That's bar and bat mitzvah age. We don't check for these signs, but this is what it's referring to when it says age of majority. Today we just assume the age of 12 and 13. We don't physically check, but that's how they used to do it back in the day. So again, that's the only time you can reject a conversion, is if it was done as a child without your consent, and you reject basically at your bar or bat mitzvah. You can't pass your bar and bat mitzvah, then say later on, you know what? I was converted. That's the only opportunity you have at that moment or before. And the debate is, once you reach the majority, is it too late? Are you already trapped in as a Jew? Does the rejection have to become as a child before you reach that age? That's the debate. Either way, nobody debates. That's the only exception. You can't nullify it. Because once you're an adult, you've now made the decision. Even if it was done without your consent, you're just like any adult that comes to convert. You can make this choice, and it's irreversible. Therefore, if a Jew has relations with a girl below the age of majority who was immersed in a mikvah by a court, that means this girl was converted as a child. The money due her as a payment of her ketubah, the ketubah is the marriage contract. So the money that was due to this girl who was converted as a child, through her ketubah, her marriage contract, or as a fine for raping. Unfortunately, if this happened to a victim that was a child, whether Jewish or not, but in this case, if the child was converted and she was a victim of this, there's a punishment for that. There's a monetary punishment that the criminal would have to pay by the court. So if the money was due to her through the marriage contract or as a penalty for this crime, or for seducing her, is placed in the custody of the court until she attains majority. So she becomes an adult and does not repudiate her conversion. So imagine this situation, and this happens. It's covered in, in war, women are captives. The town that loses the battle, their women are taken captive. When we discussed this, what happens to some of these captives, it's not always nice, but it happens in war today. What happens in that situation? This is a similar situation. If you're a victim of this crime, imagine this situation. You're the victim of the crime. You don't get the money right that the criminal has to pay. That money is given to the court. Court holds on to it. Why? Because she's a minor. She's not an adult. So what happens when she becomes an adult? She was converted without consent. She has the opportunity to say, I don't want to be Jewish. I want to be a non-Jew. She has the opportunity to reject the conversion. If she does not reject the conversion, then she's a Jew, 100%. So if she's a victim of this crime, the criminal had to pay a fine. The court is holding it until she becomes an adult and does not repudiate her conversion. If she doesn't, now she's a Jew. This step is taken lest she take the money, the victim of the crime, attain majority, become an adult, then repudiate her conversion in the only time that is legally allowed. Say, I don't want to be a Jew. Now she's collected the money for the crime that she was a victim of. Thus, she would derive benefit as a Noahide from monies which she is only entitled to according to Jewish law. Isn't that wonderful? So if some monster comes and does this to a child, it's a monetary fine that the Noahide is not even entitled to. If this girl who's converted against her will becomes an adult, then she says, yes, of course I'm a Jew, just like everybody in the land. Then she's entitled to the money. The court holds it so that she doesn't say, no, I actually don't want to be a Jew. I want to be Noahide. I want to be a Gentile. Might even want to leave the country, go somewhere else after what happened. Understandable. But now she's not even entitled to a monetary fine. I guess we would call that today a civil lawsuit. Forget the criminal aspect of it. Not even entitled to a civil award as a non-Jew. And at one point she was Jewish. This is if she decides to reject the conversion. Which again, she's not allowed to reject the conversion because of what happened. It's only because she became an adult and is now allowed to give the consent to whether she wants to be Jewish or not. And she can't do it later. It's only at the time she becomes the majority. It's an uncomfortable thing to think about, but this is the law. This is the law of the land. And now we want to go around and tell people society has already moved past this. You don't have to tell people that we shouldn't behave like this. But now we want to tell them to revert. This is what you want to aspire to. It makes no sense. We've already come as a society, thank God, much farther than what we were forcing on people back then. Okay. A Noahide who converts after cursing God's name, worshiping false gods, engaging in relationships with a colleague's wife, or killing a Noahide, a fellow Noahide, is exempt from punishment. Let me see if there's any commentary on that. Because that is sort of extreme language there. Halakha 4. Killing, okay. A Gentile who converts after cursing God's name, worshiping false gods, engaging in relationship with a colleague's wife, or killing a fellow Gentile. There it says, the same law applies to a Gentile who converts after eating flesh from a living animal, stealing or ignoring his responsible to judge his colleagues. However, since a Jew is not given the death penalty for these sins, Rambam did not feel it necessary to mention them. Okay. Is exempt from punishment. Rashi, I know there's some Rashi fans out there, explains that he is exempt from punishment because as a Jew, the process by which he is to be judged has changed. He must be warned by 2 witnesses, must observe him. His sentence is changed. He receives the more severe death penalty. for cursing God, for idol worship, no penalty at all, for killing or engaging in relations with a Gentile. Ah, I see. So a Jew is not, you're being judged separately. You're not executed for engaging in relationships with a Gentile. But a Gentile who converts after cursing God's name, worshiping false gods, he's exempt from the punishment. You would think that would be one of the seven. I guess because it's not. He's talking about a colleague's wife, another Gentile. I see. It's not talking about a relationship with a Jew. That would be a severe no-no. Okay, so it's talking about another Gentile. In contrast, if he converted after killing a Jew as a Gentile, he would receive the same punishment. Or having relations with a Jew's wife, he is liable. He is decapitated for killing the Jew and strangled to death for engaging in relations with a Jew's wife. As a Gentile, this deed would be punished by decapitation, a more severe form of execution. He's given the latter punishment because the laws governing him have changed. So now we're on 5. It has already been
Hey, I got a
explained.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, and I've never done this or known anybody that's done this, but goldfish swallowing, So you're going back to like the live animal, like eating the flesh of a live animal, but it's the halakha. It doesn't. Does it consider fish a live animal? Because we don't put cheese on the fish.
Right. So the reason we don't have to put it's interesting because fish is considered, there's no shachita. There's no kosher slaughter done. There's no for a fish. So the rules are different. Live goldfish swallow.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know it's like a fringe thought, but I was just wondering, you know what I mean?
So it kind of sounds like you're tying it to, is this the same as eating the limb of an animal that's alive?
That's what I'm saying. Like eating the flesh of a living animal. I guess they don't have limbs, but it is flesh, right? But it's the flesh of the fish, but
Right.
it's not a limb. But do they even?
So I would have to go research the actual law on that, and before I could say definitively.
Because I know I
it
just
is.
seen these hazing rituals that they have at like frat parties in the colleges, campuses, and all that, and like I've seen it on movies, like like old movies and stuff, and I just thought I was wondering
Because
if that yeah.
Just because you see them doing it doesn't mean it's a good idea. So
I don't think it's a good. I would never swallow a live goldfish, but I'm saying halakhically, does that meet the requirements?
I'm gonna advise against it, whether the halakha allows it or not.
I'm saying I'm not gonna do it,
which is why I don't want to
it's
spend the time
allowed or
going.
not. I'm not gonna do it.
Which is why I don't want to spend the time going and looking it up, just so nobody can say, "Well, actually, there's a technicality here." I'm just gonna say, don't do it, whether it's halakhically allowed or not. So
Okay.
But if you're thinking about doing something, do have a question, then I will go look it up, but not that. All right, halakha 5. It has already been explained that Gentiles are always executed by decapitation, except in cases when one engages in relations with the wife of a Jew or a consecrated maiden. In the latter instance, he is stoned to death. Little side note here. For those of you who have the physical copy, I'm reading this version here, which I recommend. And one of the reasons why is because of the commentary. Here it says in the Yemenite manuscripts of the Mishneh Torah, which the Yemenite is always going to be the most accurate one because these people have always followed Rambam. So they've got the actual manuscripts that Rambam was being copied from. So in the Yemenite manuscripts of the Mishneh Torah, the word or is omitted. Thus, the phrase reads, a consecrated maiden married to a Jew. This version is preferable because relations with a married Jewess are punished by decapitation, as explained in chapter 9, halakha 7. So this is saying that that version, to the manuscript version, would say you're decapitated by, you're executed by decapitation, not by strangulation. Where in this version, the printed version, sometimes there's notes, and the printers didn't know if it was a note or if it was the actual text, so they've included it. So in this version, they're saying you would be executed by strangulation instead of decapitation. But again, anytime you have a Yemenite version, that's going to be the more authentic version to go by. This commentary points out these examples where there is a discrepancy. So I do like that. Okay, number 6. According to the oral tradition, Noahides are forbidden to crossbreed animals and graft different species of trees together. However, they are not executed for violating this prohibition. Well, if it's a prohibition, then why is it? Why are they not executed? So the answer is that it's usually understood that they're only executed for violating those 7 laws. This is not one of the 7 laws. Okay, which goes to show you, I mean, for those who don't know, these 7 laws were handpicked by rabbis. It's not 7 laws that were given to Noah. It's one of the laws that was given to Adam and Noah was to be fruitful and multiply. Why isn't that one of the 7? Because the rabbis said we don't want that to be one of the 7, so we're not going to include it. This law to have them set up courts to judge people, not given there to the descendants of Noah. So why is it included? Because rabbis decided to include it. Those are the 7 that the rabbis chose. Here we see, according to the tradition, there's another prohibition. So why isn't this one of them? Because rabbis decided that these are the 7 we're going to execute them for. This, while they're saying, according to the tradition, it's a prohibition, it's a law they're forbidden to do, we're not going to execute them for violating this prohibition because we're only going to execute them for violating these 7. So rabbis have decided this is also a prohibition, but this is not one that you get executed for. When we've already read, you're violated for executing any of the laws, but it's only those 7. A Gentile who gave a Jew a blow is liable to die for causing even the most minimal damage. Nevertheless, he's not executed. Why? Because punching a Jew, while you would for sure be punished, that's not killing. That's not one of the 7 that they decided to be executed for. Let me see what it says. Probably articulated better than I can there. A Gentile who gave a Jew a blow is liable to die by the hand of God. This is correct. Being cut off. Death by the hand of heaven. Well, according to the halakha, if you're a non-Jew and you strike a Jew, even though you wouldn't be executed by the court, according to God, you would be executed by the hand of God. This is the law. This is where we have to understand. We can't enact a law that says, God, he punched me. The law says you have to execute it. Okay. So this is just a belief. But this is the belief that was being pushed by the Sanhedrin who made laws. Laws that if you follow these 7 and not this one, if you violate this one, you won't be executed. But if you violate these 7, you will be executed. These were the rabbis instituting the laws. This was their belief. The sages accepted the tradition that only the 7 mitzvot are punishable by death. Based on that decision, he explains that Moses' act was an exception. With prophetic intuition, Moses saw that no good would ever come from the Egyptian, therefore he slew him. This non-Jew, the Egyptian, who was beating the Hebrew slave, Moses executed that guy. But they're relating here that you would be punished by the court, but you wouldn't be executed by the court. Their belief is that you would be executed by God, which when they say death by the hand of heaven, they mean death at an early age. Usually they say that they expect you would die before the age of 50. I haven't made it to 50 yet, but it's been on my mind. If I do, then I've, achieved that level at least, made it that far. All right, number 7. Only Abraham and his descendants were commanded regarding circumcision. Genesis 17:9-10 states, keep my covenant, you and your offspring circumcise every male. This is interesting because the descendants of Ishmael, they're excluded, as implied by Genesis, that it's through Isaac that your offspring will be called. Esau's descendants are also excluded. For Isaac told Jacob, may God grant Abraham's blessing to you and your descendants, implying that only he is the true offspring of Abraham, who maintains his faith and his upright behavior. Thus, they alone are obligated in circumcision. We could have a long conversation about this here, but Abraham was commanded to circumcise every male in his camp. The descendants of Ishmael, Ishmael is Abraham's child. Those are his descendants. If you want to go with this, that it, well, really it only meant through Isaac. Okay, well, Isaac had Jacob and Esau. Esau and Jacob, they have the same parents. So Esau's descendants should be. If you don't want to, if you want to say, okay, well, it's only through Jacob, what about Keturah? Abraham remarried and had descendants with Keturah. There are those who say in the commentaries that those descendants of Abraham are also included, that it's not just Jacob's descendants. So anyway, I guess this is where it goes over in 8. Our sages related that the descendants of Keturah, this is Abraham's wife after Sarah, who are the offspring of Abraham that came after Isaac and Ishmael, are obligated in circumcision. So now Abraham's son Isaac, his descendants are, but Abraham's Isaac descendants through Esau are not. But then, okay, you have Isaac and Jacob. Later on, he marries Keturah, the covenants with Jacob. Okay, but now he's with Keturah, a new woman, and those descendants are commanded to be circumcised. So there's a lot of discussion about that. The descendants of Keturah, who are the offspring of Abraham that came after Isaac and Ishmael, are also obligated in circumcision. We even know who these descendants are. Since at present time the descendants of Ishmael have become intermingled with the descendants of Keturah, they are all obligated to be circumcised on the 8th day. However, they are not executed for failure to perform this mitzvah. A Gentile who studies Torah is obligated to die. This includes Noahides. Clearly, I don't believe this. Tell me what the law is in the land at the time when we were allowed to accept Noahides. Noahide is a Gentile. A Gentile who studies Torah is obligated to die. They should only be involved in the study of their 7 mitzvot. How can they be involved in the study of those 7 mitzvot? Clearly, you have to go to a rabbi, listen to what the rabbi decides to tell you about it. And the reason for this, a Gentile was not allowed to study Torah because conversions for thousands of years were done the right way, the way that the halakha still reads today. You're converted the day that you want to convert. Now you're a Jew, same day. Now you're not a Gentile. Now you're allowed to read the entire Torah. There was no, by the way, these people that are putting people in conversion processes that last years, which I myself went through, you were technically a Gentile the whole time you're studying the Torah in the conversion class, which is sort of a proof that you should be converting people the way the law says to convert them, then teach them Torah. So, as a Noahide, the law is that you would be obligated to die for studying Torah. You should only be involved in 7 mitzvot. Similarly, a Gentile who rests, even on a weekday, observing that day as a Sabbath, is obligated to die. Needless to say, he is obligated for that punishment if
I'll
he
have a quick.
a festival for himself. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a quick comment. Okay, so you know how they say that when you're converting, now that I take that into consideration, that they're supposed to tell you a couple of the light mitzvot and a couple of the stringent mitzvot. I guess that those light and stringent mitzvot, right? That should be they should be confined to within those 7 laws, right?
The only parts that they're allowed to study. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
This should be
right, because they can't study the other mitzvot all they're allowed to study is those 7 laws, right? So those
So-
mitzvot should come out of those 7 laws.
Right, that's a great point. When we only tell them some of the light mitzvot, that should be, hey, you're only obligated to follow 7, right? That should be one of the things you tell them. But in every instance, they are converted without being offered that as an alternative.
Right, right. Like saying, going over, oh well, you got to keep kashrut. Oh no. I'm not even gonna get into that until I'm converted. Right.
Right.
Because that's not a law for me.
Exactly. This is why it's a scam. You have to be sold this in order to fall for it, because it's literally not there in the law. This is why we're on part 4. We're 4 hours into this, and we're just reading what the laws say. They spend way more than 4 hours coming up with ways to sell this stuff. It's the exact opposite of what the law says. This is why it's not just one class. We're on part 4. Part 3 was literally me reading like 100 passages, just one after the other. All right, so let's read the commentary on this, because we're using powerful language here. A Gentile who studies the Torah is obligated to die. They should only be involved in their 7th book. Obligated to die. The commentary here, at the hand of God. Sanhedrin 59a comments Deuteronomy 33:4 states, the Torah, which Moses commanded us, is the heritage of the children of Israel. It's our heritage and not theirs. This is the opinion. Although I will point out, Rambam says in Laws of Kings, it's one of the previous chapters, it's not just the inheritance of Jacob. It's the inheritance of Jacob and all those who desire to convert. So if you are a Gentile who desires to convert, Torah is your inheritance. That's why they were always converted in every example. Even the ones that convert me on the basis that I don't accept the oral law, convert me on the basis that you make me the high priest, convert me on the basis that, what was the other one? That you teach me the entire
Standing on one foot.
Standing on one foot. Right. They were all converted. And then they were no longer Gentiles. And then they were allowed to study Torah. Because
and that's why he said when he said teach me the Torah standing on one foot, he didn't really teach him the Torah. All he said was that one sentence,
right.
which
that
probably
which is
isn't even
you do not do to others.
Right, because that would go
essence
back to not teaching him Torah.
Just like when you give them some of the light mitzvot, some of the heavy mitzvot, so you don't scare them away, they make a general acceptance. Yes, I accept these laws. I accept joining the people. You convert them, and then you teach him what the laws are that he converted. Now you teach him Torah. That's the way it's always been. So it's the inheritance of all those who desire to convert, meaning you're allowed to convert same day, and then you learn what you converted to. Same way they did at Mount Sinai, which is why the Torah says all generations going forward, including this one, conversions are to be done the exact same way. If you say, no, I don't want to convert, I want to remain a Gentile, I only want to follow 7 laws, I do not accept conversion, I do not wish to become a Jew, I want to remain a Gentile, I want to remain a Noahide, which is a Gentile, then you are a Gentile who is obligated to die. You should only study these 7 mitzvot and not any of the rest. This is not referring to converts. This is referring to people who want to remain non-Jews. This is the language that's used. And now this is what we want to tell people. This is what you want to aspire to. Forget those 10 commandments you used to follow. Come down to only 7 where you can be executed for reading what we read, for doing what we do every day, reading Torah. Similarly, a Gentile who rests. Genesis 8, I'm reading commentary now. Genesis 8:22 records God's promise to Noah. As long as the earth lasts, day and night shall not cease. Therefore, this can be interpreted as rest. Thus, Sanhedrin 58b interprets this verse as a command prohibiting Noah's descendants from resting day and night. You non-Jews should work as slaves day and night. No rest. Not on Shabbat. Not on a normal day that's not Shabbat. No days off for you. All right. And you think I'm being harsh here. Wait till you hear who says this. They may either become righteous converts and accept all the mitzvot, or retain their statuses without adding or detracting from them. If a Gentile studies Torah, makes a Sabbath, or creates a religious practice, a Jewish court should beat him. Hang on. There's some commentary here that I skipped over that I want to read. Verse 56. Okay. A Gentile who rests even on a weekday.
Oh, now I
Observing that
got
day is
another
established.
comment. Now I got another comment. Remember when that guy said that I should accept the yoke of the Torah? I guess the yoke of the Torah would be the Noahide laws, right?
There was so much going on in that debate. He
I
did not
remember,
make
yeah,
he did not make Chabad look good.
yeah.
So, okay.
Oh!
All right. This is all this commentary is giving here. I'm going to read you the commentary that I have. Similarly, a Gentile who rests, even on a weekday, observing that day, is 57. Rashi, big Rashi fans out there, right? Explains that not only is a Gentile forbidden to fix a day as a day of rest, he is prohibited against taking a day off from work, even to relax. So anybody who wants to quote Rashi says, even though everybody understands Tuesday is not Shabbat, if you're a Gentile, you're not allowed to take a day off work on Tuesday. Rashi says you're prohibited from taking a day off even to relax. Isn't that fantastic? Needless to say, if he's obligated for that punishment, if he creates a festival for himself. The observance of a festival generally implies religious content in addition to being a day of rest. There it is surely prohibited. Can't participate in any festival as a non-Jew because there's religious content, and there you're not allowed to see, because you're a Gentile that's not allowed to study Torah. If a Gentile studies Torah, makes a Sabbath, or creates a religious practice, a Jewish court should beat him, punish him, and inform him that he's obligated to die. However, he's not executed, but you should be severely beaten with sticks by the court for being a Gentile who wants to read the Torah, even though you accept the 7 laws. This is what the system that we're pushing people into. We're trying to scam people into saying, you don't want to be one of us. You don't want to live by the same laws we raise our family. You don't want to do things that Hashem says is pleasing to him. You don't want to be part of this system. You want to join this, where you'll be beaten for coming around us. It's absolutely disgusting. Now you see why I'm so upset. The rabbis know this. They're not just repeating what their rabbi taught them. They're a rabbi who never read the halakha. The rabbis who know this go out and push this on people who trust them. You see why I'm so disgusted by it. Number 10. We should not prevent a Noahide who desires to perform one of the Torah's mitzvot, Torah commandments, in order to receive reward from doing so, provided he performs it as required. If you're going to do it, you have to do it the way we do it. If you're going to put on tzitzit, you have to put it on the way that we put them on. If you're going to keep Shabbat, you have to keep it the way we do it, sundown to sundown. You can't do sundown to sun up, because then, if you're going to do it differently than how we're doing it, then you're creating a new religion for yourself, and that is prohibited. If he brings an animal to be sacrificed as a burnt offering, we should receive it. Again, this is a time where we're allowed to accept Noahides, where we have a temple, we have animal sacrifice. Right now, we don't have a temple, we don't have a Sanhedrin, we don't have a king, we don't have animal sacrifice. So clearly, we don't have Yovel. The one sentence where they like to misquote Rambam and say, well, Rambam says if you follow these 7 and you believe this was given to Moses, you get a share in the world to come. That's only applicable in a time where we're allowed to receive Noahides. And this is the last book in Mishneh Torah. He says in the first book, we can't accept them unless we have Yovel. So chronologically, he understands that we're discussing this book, the last one in the series. He knows you already read the first one, that we're discussing these laws in a time that we're allowed to accept them. But since we don't have Yovel, you read the first book, which came before this one, this is not that era. So it's very dishonest to take him out of context and say, oh, look, he says right here in a future time that doesn't exist right now that we're allowed to. He's discussing a time that will come in the future when we will be allowed to. Okay, if a Noahide, again, this is his opinion. If a Noahide who observes the 7 mitzvot gives charity, we should accept it from him. Sure, you want to give me some money? Give it to me. It appears to me that it should be given to the Jewish poor. For the Noahide may derive his sustenance from the Jews, and they are commanded to support him if necessary. In contrast, if an idolater gives charity, we should accept it to him and give it to the Gentile poor. Look at what's going on here. If a Noahide, if you want to give charity, if you've got a tzedakah box, you donate money into it, you want to give it to me, I'll take it from you. But this is saying, I'm not going to give it to the other Noahides. I'm going to keep it for my people. I'm going to take from you, what you're giving to me voluntarily, charity. It's a nice thing to do. Thank you for giving it to me. I'm going to support my community with it. I'm going to support the Jewish community with what you're giving me. However, in contrast, if an idolater, one of these people out there engaging in human sacrifice, sacrificing children on an altar after they've been born, you're going to give money to me, it's so detestable. I don't even want your inanimate objects. I'm not even going to use it to benefit my people. Who am I going to give it to? I'm going to give it to the second-class citizens. I'm going to give it to the Noahides. I wouldn't take this. I consider this money to be what the Torah tells us when we obliterate a town of idolaters. Kill every man, woman, child, every animal, every inanimate object. Don't even keep the coins. Coins might have a picture. It might have been used to purchase something that was used for idolatry. But I'm going to take this coin and I'm going to use it to support the Noahides because I'm obligated to support them. So I'll give it to them, things that are so detestable, I would not even use it to buy food for my family with. But I would give it to a Noahide. If that same Noahide returns the favor and says, I got my paycheck, instead of using this money to feed my family, I'm going to donate it to you, I'll take it. But I'm going to support my people with Jews, not Noahides. It reminds me of a story that Rabbi Yonatan Halevi said. He said that there was some rabbi, I don't remember his name, but he says the question came up, organ donation. As a Jew, am I allowed to donate organs to benefit, other people? Can I give a kidney when I die to somebody else to maybe save their life? So this rabbi said, absolutely not. A Jew is going to partake in resurrection of the dead. He needs those organs when he's brought back to life. Obviously, this is problematic. We're saying God can't resurrect the body if it doesn't have the organ. So all these Jews that were burned to death and incinerated and turned into ashes in the Holocaust, they're not coming back because they weren't buried. They were burned to ashes. It's very problematic. So this rabbi
See,
said,
I thought you was gonna say they didn't want their organs going into an idolater's or a Noahide's body.
that's what I'm getting to. I was just pointing out the problem that I have with saying that God's not capable of resurrecting your body because you gave your organ away. You don't have all your organs intact when it goes into the ground. We're supposed to be buried, not cremated. However, people like in the Holocaust were cremated against their will, but they didn't go into the ground. They didn't have the ideal burial with all of their organs intact. So this rabbi, I don't remember his name, he said a Jew is absolutely not allowed to participate in organ donation because he needs it. The Jew needs it for the resurrection of the dead after he dies, after he leaves this world. A Noahide is not going to participate. A Gentile is not going to participate in resurrection of the dead. So therefore, the Jew is not allowed to give his organs to save the life of non-Jews. So Rabbi Uziel, he was one of the chief rabbis of Israel. Why do I point this out? Because he's not just some Rabbi Yosef Haim, not some rabbi. He's the chief rabbi of Israel. He should, when he speaks, you should listen. Right? So Rabbi Uziel said, that's disgusting what this other rabbi said. If it's because the other rabbi said, not only is a Jew not allowed to participate in organ donation to save the life of non-Jews, he said that if a non-Jew wants to give an organ to save the life of a Jew, we're allowed to receive it. As a Jew, if you non-Jews want to donate an organ, I can take it for me. I can save my life with your non-Jewish kidney. But I can't give a non-Jew my kidney. I need that after I die. I'm going to partake in resurrection of the dead. Non-Jews won't. So you just die of kidney failure or whatever. Non-Jew, I can't donate it to you. But if you want to donate it to me and my family, we'll take it. We'll take your organs or kidneys. That's what the rabbi said. So Rabbi Uziel, who's the chief rabbi, one of the chief rabbis of Israel, said that's disgusting. If it's meritorious for a non-Jew to donate one of their organs to save us, then it's meritorious for us to donate our organs to save them. Anything that's good for them to do is good for us to do. If we can't do it, then how can you tell them they can't? And they shouldn't be doing it either. That's a very honorable thing that Rabbi Uziel said. Now, because he was a respected rabbi, the chief rabbi of Israel, that people should be listening to, did Jews worldwide listen to that message? I don't think so. That's not what I see happening. I think they chose to ignore that message. I don't think they should have. I think they should have listened to that message. And we're seeing from the halakha here the same thing. This is what's being taught. And this is what we're going to try and push them in. We're pushing them into a system where I wouldn't give you my kidney to save you, but I'll take yours. If you'll give it to me, I'll take it. You can give it to me. Same thing we see here. Again, in a time where we have animal sacrifices, if you want to donate charity or make a sacrifice, we'll accept it. If we benefit from it, fine. But the idolaters, where we wouldn't have anything to do with, even these inanimate objects, we'll give it to you, things we don't want. This is the system we're telling people. Instead of joining the same system that God offered you, the same system that we entered into, when we have children with Jewish women, children come into this world halakhically Jewish. They didn't ask to be. We're bringing them into this system because we feel it's a good system. But rather than telling people who want to join, yeah, you can come in, the way every convert for thousands of years came in, we're telling them, no, go join this instead. I don't think we're going to be judged favorably for doing that. And I'm not going to participate in it. All right, halakha 11. The Jewish court is obligated to appoint judges for these resident aliens. You don't get to choose who your judges are. You don't get to elect, hey, I follow these 7. He's a good guy that follows these 7. I want him to judge me. You don't get to choose. We appoint them over you. A Jewish court is obligated to appoint judges for these resident aliens. Resident alien, Ger Toshav, Noahide, to judge them according to these statutes so that the world will not become decadent. As I said, we've already, it's a minimum standard to uphold these 7, not something to aspire to. And the world has already progressed past it. We're already a much better society now than you would have been facing if you journey outside of the boundaries of the land of Israel, where people are openly murdering children, doing human sacrifice. Which, even on American soil, a couple hundred years ago, Aztecs were doing that. Fortunately, now that's not happening. So again, we've already progressed past that. This is not something that we need to be teaching people to devolve into. If the court sees fit to appoint the judges from resident aliens themselves, we may appoint non-Jews as judges over you if we see fit. But if we see fit to appoint them from among the Jews, they may. It's like you get pulled over speeding, the cop, he may let you go with a warning, or he may write you up for it. It's his discretion. That's what this is saying. We might let you, we might choose judges from among your people, or we might give you one of our judges to appoint over you. We decide. And you just read in the last halakha what we think of you. We'll take your charity to help us, but we'll only give you things that we wouldn't keep for ourselves. These are the people making the decision. Who's going to judge you as a Noahide? Who, if you get caught stealing 1 grape, not even worth 1 penny, no pre-warning, 1 witness, 1 judge would execute you for. This is who's appointing judges over you. Should 2 idolaters come before you to have their dispute judged according to Jewish law, if they both desire to be judged according to the Torah law, they should be judged accordingly. If one desires to be judged according to the Torah law and the other does not, they are only forced. Isn't this always pleasant when the word forced is used for anything? They are forced to be judged according to their laws. Look at the language here. If they both desire to be judged according to the Torah law, then they should be judged according. Don't we desire to be judged according to the Torah law? Isn't that why God gave it to us? He says, this is the standard that pleases me. This is what I want to see the nation do. This is what I want the world to see, that this is the way to be. This is what the rest of the world has an invitation to join. And they'll say we're a wise and discerning people because we have these Torah commandments that we're judged by. What Jew would say, do you want to raise your children according to the ways of the non-Jews? Every Jew wants to raise their children according to this, because this is the desirable way. If there's a dispute between a Jew and an idolater, if the Jew will fare better according to their laws, they're judged according to their laws. If it benefits me to be judged by like an idolater's court system, if something I did is not a crime in your court system, it would benefit me to be judged in your court. However, when the judgment is rendered, the judgment explains is your law obligates this judgment. That's very favorable to me. That's why I should be judged to my advantage in the idolater's court. But if the Jew will fare better according to our laws, Jewish law, then they are judged according to Torah law. When the judgment is rendered, the judges explain, our law obligates this judgment. It appears to me that this approach is not followed in regard to resident alien. Rather, he is always judged according to their laws. Why does it appear this way? Because the word forced. They're forced to be judged according to their laws, if one of them wants to be. We have the choice. If it benefits me to be judged in your court, the land of idolaters, if I come out better that way, let me be judged there. If I'm better, it'll work out better for me to be judged according to the Torah. That's how I'm to be judged. This is going to benefit me. And I have the choice. I can say it benefits me in your court, so I want to be judged that way. Or I can say it benefits me to be judged by the Torah. This is what I have to be judged by. Torah law. I get to choose whichever benefits me. Noahides are not given that choice. Gentiles, idolaters, not given that choice. Did anybody who ever came to convert and got told, well, you don't want to be a Jew, you want to be a Noahide? Was anybody ever told these laws when they were told that that's what they really want to choose? I suspect not. Similarly, it appears to me that in regard to respect and honor, and also in regard to charity, a resident alien is to be treated as a Jew, for behold, we are commanded to sustain them. Deuteronomy states, you may not eat any animal that has not been properly slaughtered. Give it to the resident alien in your gates, he may eat it, though our sages counseled against repeating a greeting to them. That statement applies to idolaters, not to resident aliens. However, our sages commanded us to visit the Gentiles when ill, to bury their dead in addition to the Jewish dead, and support their poor in addition to the Jewish poor for the sake of peace. Then it quotes Psalms, God is good to all, and his mercies extend over all his works. And Proverbs states the Torah's ways are pleasant, and all of its paths are peace. If the Torah's ways are pleasant, then isn't this what we should be inviting people to? King Solomon is who it's attributed he wrote Proverbs. So if King Solomon is saying the Torah's ways are pleasant, did King Solomon marry 700 Noahides? He converted them all to Judaism. All of his wives were converted to Judaism. So anyway, I don't remember what time I started, so I don't know if we're an hour or whatnot. Is this the last halakha here? I think it is. And then the next one, we talked about halakha 1, but I'm going to read it here because it gives us context. In the future, a messianic king will arrive. Do we have that messianic king today? We're not Chabadniks, so we say the answer is no. So in the future, a messianic king will arise and renew the Davidic dynasty, restoring it to its initial sovereignty. He will build the temple and gather the dispersed of Israel. Then, in his days, the observance of all the statutes will return to their previous states. We will offer sacrifices, observe the sabbatical year, the Jubilee. This is Yovel. Ratzul Chavim says we don't have Noahides, we only have Gentiles and full converts. Because we don't have the Jubilee, here in the future, we'll see we will have the Jubilee, and according to all their particulars as described in the Torah. So in the future, we will have Yovel, and then we will be able to have Noahides. All of this is describing the Messianic era, where all of this will be reinstituted. That's not the era that we're in today. So when people say, well, Rambam says if you follow 7 laws, you don't get a share in the world. But if you follow 7 laws and you believe that Moses was commanded by God to go out and push this on people, then you get a share in the world to come. That's only applicable in an era where we have Yovel, the Jubilee. That sentence is saying, well, you see, Rambam thinks you can follow 7 laws and we can accept Noahides. He makes it clear in the first book, that's only when we have Yovel. No Yovel, no Noahides. He states it both ways. You only have righteous converts. And then he says, no Yovel, you don't have Noahides, you only have converts. And you can't have Noahides without Yovel. He says it very clearly. Fast forward to the last book, chronologically. Here is where he's talking about an era in the future where we have Yovel. And that's where you find the statement that Rambam says you can have Noahides and they'll get a share in the world to come if they believe that God commanded this to Moses. But it's only applicable in an era in the future. That era is not today. Okay, any questions on the recording before I stop the recording and have whatever discussion you want to have? Speak now or forever hold your peace in the comment section after I stop the recording. All right. Hopefully, this will be the last in the series. If everybody thinks I'm wrong, tell me why in the comments. Tell me what I'm supposed to read that shows me why I'm an idiot and why the halakha is actually the opposite of what it says. And then we'll make a Noahide scam part 5. Stop sharing. Where's the stop recording button? Stop recording. All right. Thank you everybody for being here. I'll see you on the Noahide scam part 5 if we need to make